Welcome you all to the new course. It's Soil Mechanics, which is otherwise also called as Geotechnical Engineering 1. So in this particular lecture, we are going to be focusing on what are the different contents that we are going to be covering in this particular course of soil mechanics, what are the references that we'll be following for this course, and a detailed insight into what is meant by soil mechanics, in which all applications of geotechnical engineering this soil mechanics plays a role in understanding how the behavior of that structure is going to be. Okay, and what are the different problems where we encounter some challenges, or what are the different problems as a geotechnical engineer that we come across with, is what we'll be trying to touch upon in this particular lecture, in today's lecture. So coming to the outline of this particular course, this course is going to be divided into 5 units, whereas in the first unit, we will be focusing on characterization of the soil in the sense, understanding the classification of the soil, the composition of the soil, and how the origin and formation of soil took place. And we'll also be talking about various fundamental terminologies which we are going to be coming across, like void ratio, porosity, density, specific gravity, and so on. And along with this, we'll also be mainly talking about the classification of the soils based on various classification systems in your first unit. And coming to the second unit, we'll be focusing on the hydraulic properties of the soil. That's nothing but the coefficient of permeability of the soil. And subsequently, we'll be focusing on what is called as the seepage analysis. How does the flow takes place through your earthen embankment, or the flow takes place through the soil strata below your concrete dam. So how that flow characteristics are going to be is what we will be learning in this second unit. This is your second unit. Coming to your third unit, we'll be mainly focusing on what is called as compaction and consolidation. So in this, we'll try to understand, due to the loads what are getting applied onto the soil, how the settlement, or rather the compression is happening in your soil strata. How the compressibility characteristics of the soil are going to be is what we'll try to understand in this third unit. And coming to the fourth unit, which is shear strength of the soil, where we are going to be understanding, like, how are we going to determine the shear strength of your soil based on different laboratory tests, is what we'll try to come across in this particular unit, that is shear strength of the soils. And in the fifth unit, we'll be mainly focusing on how to analyze a particular slope, whether it is stable or unstable. So whether a slope, what we are looking at, to what extent it is stable. Stability of that slopes is what we are going to be talking about in terms of the factor of safety of that particular slope what we are looking at. We have got different methods or approaches by which we are going to be analyzing that particular slopes, which are broadly categorized as finite or infinite slopes, with flow happening through the slope, or without any flow taking place through that particular slope. So these are the 5 units that we are going to be covering in this particular course. And coming to your textbooks that we are going to be following for this course, one of that book, what we'll be mainly referring to is Principles of Geotechnical Engineering by B.M. Das. And the other book, what you can also refer to, is Basics and Applied Soil Mechanics by Gopal Ranjan and A.S.R. Rao. And the other book, what you can also refer to, which is a foreign author book, which is Soil Mechanics by Lamb and Whitman. These are the 3 books what you can refer to, and any of the book at your comfort, you can make use of it for this particular course. Now coming to what is meant by the soil mechanics or geotechnical engineering. So before we go on to understand what is meant by soil mechanics or geotechnical engineering all about, first let us understand what is meant by soil. Okay, soil is basically nothing but it is one type of material what we are going to be talking about in civil engineering, because in civil engineering we come across with different materials. It could be cement, it could be concrete, it could be glass, it could be reinforcement, that's steel. Okay, various type of materials will be coming across, but the difference between those materials to that of your soil as a material is all those other materials what we are going to be coming across in civil engineering. It could be concrete or steel or cement or brick or anything. any particular grade of that cement, if we talk about the strength of that cement, whether it is manufactured by any company, is more or less same. That means your let's say if I am talking about a concrete mix of M33 grade, M30 grade. So M30 grade means the compressive strength of that concrete is 30 megapascal. Whether you prepare or somebody else prepare, if we say the grade of that concrete is M30, then the compressive strength what you should minimally get is 30 megapascals for that particular mix. Okay. So in the same way, steel also, if we say Fe250 bar, which is manufactured by Tata Steel or maybe Jindal or any other company, would certainly have the same strength characteristics. But when it comes to the soil as a material, the property of the soil is not going to be same from place to place, and at a particular place also from depth to depth, your property of that soil is going to be getting changed because of different compositions of minerals which are present in that particular soil, and also due to the different skeleton structure at which your particles are arranged. So due to which your the strength of the soil or the properties of the soil would be getting changed from one particular to the other, one place to that of your other place. So the term soil, according to engineering point of view, is defined as a material by means of which all the loads which are getting, all the loads coming from your superstructure is getting transferred onto that particular material through a medium what is called as your foundation. So the loads which are coming from your structure gets transferred onto the soil ultimately through the foundation. So what is that material which is responsible for taking care of all the loads which we are trying to distribute? Means it is nothing but your soil material. Okay. So whenever we say the term soil, which includes the entire thickness of the earth crust, I repeat, it includes the entire thickness of the earth crust. That's nothing but from the ground surface till your harder stratum in the sense the bedrock. So whatever the material that is there in between the ground surface to that of your hard rock strata, so that all material is what we call it as your soil. And this material soil, whenever we talk about, which is accessible and feasible for practical utilization as foundation support or any construction, in any of the construction, you can be using this particular material. It is composed of loosely bound mineral particles of various sizes and shapes formed due to the process of your weathering of the rocks. So basically how the soil formation takes place, due to the process of weathering which takes place from your parent rock material, those particles which got disintegrated from your parent rock material gets carried away and gets deposited at a particular place to form what is called as your soil. So coming to what is meant by soil mechanics, basically soil mechanics is one of the discipline of your civil engineering, or rather this geotechnical engineering is otherwise what we can call it as one of the discipline, major discipline of your civil engineering stream, involving the study or the properties with respect to that of the soil, knowing the behavior of the soil mass, which is subjected to various types of loadings. Maybe it could be a static load, it could be a dynamic load, it could be a cyclic loading. Okay. So when it is subjected to various conditions of loads, various types of loads, how the response of that soil is going to be, how that particular soil material is going to be behaving, is all what we are going to be learning from this course called as soil mechanics. So according to Terzaghi is basically called as father of soil mechanics. You have got various researchers who has contributed enormously in the development of this geotechnical engineering and in developing various theories pertaining to various aspects in this geotechnical engineering. But the contributions of Terzaghi was tremendous, and we call Terzaghi as what is the father of soil mechanics. Basically, he is a mechanical engineer, but however, his contributions in understanding the behavior of the soil as a material has been tremendous, and he has went on to develop various theories, and he has proposed various approaches in understanding the condition of your soil. According to Carl Terzaghi, soil mechanics is nothing but it's the application of laws of mechanics and hydraulics to engineering problems dealing with sediments. Sediments in the sense here, it's nothing but your solid particles, soil solid grains, and other unconsolidated accumulations of solid particles which are produced by mechanical and chemical disintegration of your rocks, regardless of whether or not they contain any admixture of organic constituents. So according to Carl Terzaghi, so soil mechanics is nothing but it's the application of the laws of your mechanics and the subsequent hydraulics, which governs the characteristics of that particular, which talks about the behavior of that particular soil under different loading conditions and subsequent to that of your pore water pressures which are getting developed. Next, why do you need to learn about soil? So in civil engineering, every material will have its own properties. So in the same way, as like the other materials that we come across in civil engineering, like it could be cement or cement or concrete or maybe brick or any other steel, any other materials. So in the same way, soil is also one of that material what we are going to be generally using in the process of your construction of different structures. It could be a embankment or whatever it could be, or it's also very essential for us to know the properties of the soil, because all the loads which are coming from various structures would be ultimately taken or carried by your soil only. So in order to say whether those loads what are distributed by your structures are safely carried by the soil or not, so that can be understood only when you understand the behavior of the soil by knowing the properties of that particular soil. So why do you need to learn about soils? So as I said, in order to know the properties of that soil, which would help us in understanding or which would tell us in how the behavior of that particular soil is going to be, the soil which is used as a foundation to support your structures, or the soil which is used in the construction of the embankment, or soil which is used as a construction material, soil which is used in the construction of embankments with certain slopes, or wherever you come across with your landslides, or in the case of your earth retaining structures. So in all such particular places, if at all we know how the behavior of the soil is going to be, how the load transfer is happening from structure onto the soil or from the soil onto the different structural elements, then only we'll be able to understand the behavior of that structure which is going to be designed on that particular soil. Who must be concerned with soils? So basically it's going to be the civil engineer. It could be either a geotechnical engineer or structural engineer or environmental engineer or a transportation engineer. Any kind of engineer who are basically called as civil engineers are certainly required to know about the behavior and the subsequent properties of that particular soil, what they are encountering in their particular construction sites. So the behavior of the soil is very peculiar, because as the characteristics of that particular soil is getting changed from place to place, and if at all the soil is same, but depending on the external factors what that particular soil is being subjected to, the strength or the other characteristics of the soil would be getting changed. So as the soil is having different properties from place to place, or at a particular place also, from certain from one depth to the other depth, as a property of the soil what is available is getting changed. So that's the reason why we say the soil is a very peculiar material when compared to that of any other materials that we come across in our civil engineering. So generally the soil is considered to be non-homogeneous, non-isotropic, and it will have certainly non-linear behavior. But however, to make the life simple in the analysis of any structures, in the basic level, we assume that the soil is still homogeneous or isotropic, or it will obey your Hooke's law. But however, in reality, this may not be so. So when it comes to a typical geotechnical engineering project, how the understanding of soil is very important in taking up the design of any particular structure in that construction site. So whenever you go to a particular site, first and foremost important thing is what are the properties of that particular ground material or the soil material is something what we need to know, without which any kind of structure what you wanted to construct on that ground or on that particular soil strata doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, so first what we need to do is go to the construction site where you want to take up the construction. So first understand the properties of that ground what is existing there. So for understanding the properties of the ground what is existing there, either you can carry out some lab tests, or either you can carry out what is called as your field tests directly in the field itself to determine the various properties of the soil. Okay, so for determining the various properties of the soil, if it is a lab test, so we collect some soil samples from the field from required depth, and then we take those soil samples to the lab and we carry out the respective laboratory tests on that particular soil sample to determine the various index or engineering properties of that particular soil. And based on those soil properties, what you are trying to determine in your design office, you can go on to design the suitable foundation or suitable structure which can safely transfer the loads onto that particular soil which has got that particular corresponding properties. Now, what are the various geotechnical applications in which this understanding about your soil is very essential? So in the case where you are required to design a foundation, whether it could be a typical shallow foundation or whether it could be a typical deep foundation. So in any kind of foundation, if I want to, for any structure, if I want to design any type of foundation, what is very important for us is to know is what type of foundation that has to be designed there. So what type of foundation, if I need to understand, that will be understood only based on which the soil on which that particular foundation has to be constructed, whether the soil is a hard soil strata or a weak soil strata, whether the loads coming from the superstructure are very light in weight or very heavier in weight. Depending on that, we are going to be deciding on what type of foundation, whether it is a shallow foundation or whether it is a deep foundation. Basically, this foundation is broadly categorized as shallow foundation or deep foundation based on a ratio what is called as DF by B ratio of that particular foundation. If the DF by B ratio of the foundation is less than or equal to 1, we call that foundation to be shallow foundation. In case if the DF by B ratio of the foundation is greater than 1, we call it as your deep foundation. So DF indicates the depth of the foundation, at what depth the bottom of the foundation is resting below the ground surface, and width of the foundation, this is nothing but we call it as the width of the foundation. So the ratio of depth to width of the foundation, if it is less than or equal to 1, we call it as typically shallow foundation, or if it is greater than or if it is greater than 1, we call it as deep foundation. So in this image, if you particularly look at, you have got different types of shallow foundations. Okay, this one and this one are what we call it as isolated footing. This foundation on which the people are sitting, we call it as combined footing. This is typically this type of footing. What we have here is what we call it as trap footing. So we have different types of shallow foundations that one generally come across according to the requirement. And coming to the deep foundation, so these deep foundations are suitable. The deep foundations are another type of foundation what we come across with, which are relatively suitable when the soil which is there below the ground is relatively weak. So the loads which are coming from the superstructure are very heavy. So in both the cases, we try to transfer your structural load deeper into the soil strata, to deeper depths into the soil strata, where a harder soil is available, which is capable of taking that loads which are coming from the structure. And in the case of your retaining walls, also we talk about the understanding of your soil there. Okay, so let's say, for example, if I am trying to construct an underpassage way for either your road construction or maybe for your railway construction. So in such particular case, if I am not going to be careful, then what will happen is the soil cannot just like stand at its own stable condition. So what we'll generally see is that the soil what is adjacent to that particular excavated region will start getting collapsed by spreading it in the lateral direction. So in the process, to prevent such kind of lateral spreading in that soil mass elevation, so we are going to be talking about some structure here. This is that structure what we are trying to talk about. Okay, so on either side, so this structure is what we are calling it as here retaining structure. The purpose of this retaining structure or retaining wall is to retain your soils from lateral spreading, or to retain your soil at your required elevation without having any collapse or without having any failure happening in that particular soil mass. And in the construction of your earthen embankments or earthen dams also, it is very important for us to know how the behavior of that particular soil is going to be. What are the properties of that soil that I should be making use of in the construction of your earthen embankment to minimize your seepage losses because of the water flowing from upstream to that of your downstream. And even in the case of your concrete dam construction also, whenever you encounter this concrete dam, the flow cannot happen across the cross section of the concrete dam because concrete is more or less assumed to be impervious in nature if at all proper curing is done. Then how the flow happens through the soil strata means it is only from the bottom of your concrete dam. So in the process, when the flow starts happening through the soil strata, when water is trying to flow from upstream to downstream, due to that seepage or the flow what is taking place through the soil, at the bottom of your dam, you are going to see some pressures which are going to be exerted, some intensity of pressure which is going to be exerted due to that water which is trying to flow through the soil below your concrete dam. So that pressure is what we call it as uplift pressure. So how much is the amount of uplift pressure because of the total head difference what we have between upstream to downstream, which is governing the flow there, is what we need to understand. And if that uplift pressure, if it is higher than that of the weight of that concrete dam at any particular location, or the pressure what is transferred through the concrete dam onto the soil strata, then in such particular case, you are going to see the concrete dam getting lifted in the upper direction because of excess uplift pressures which are getting exerted at the bottom of the concrete dam. So you have to be very careful in understanding how the flow is happening through that soil, in understanding how much amount of seepage pressures are being exerted by the flow condition at the bottom of your structure there. And in different earthenworks, wherever you come across in the construction of your road payments, it could be your flexible payment or rigid payment. What we generally do is we make excavation of the soil to certain depth, and we start filling that excavated region with a stronger soil strata. It could be a muram soil or red soil. We fill it with, and we try to compact that soil to get a very hard stratum. And over that harder soil stratum, which is properly compacted, you go on to place your different layers of aggregates in order to construct your pavement. Okay, so in all such earthenworks, now what is the required strength for required strength of that particular soil what you are trying to compact, and how much amount of compaction I should be doing, what is the type of machinery that I should use for getting or for achieving that amount of compaction, and all that we are going to be understanding only when we clearly know how the behavior of original soil is going to be and how the properties of that particular soil has to be improved according to meet your requirement in the construction. And with advancements, as if your requirement of improving the characteristics of the ground or improving the properties of the soil, because if the original property of the soil or original properties of the soil, if it is not meeting the requirement of your design, is relatively higher. So in such case, that soil which has got lesser strength is not suitable for construction. But however, if you have various constraints, land is not available, your construction site is only that, you cannot go on to some other particular location, you are forced to take up the construction there itself. So in such cases, you cannot avoid that soil. What you need to do is you have to improve the condition of the soil. And by improving the condition of the soil, by modifying the properties of the soil because of various things which are added to the existing soil, like we try to add different geosynthetic materials to the soil in the process of construction to improve the behavior of your soil. Improving the behavior of the soil in terms of increasing the bearing capacity, or in terms of improving your filtration characteristics of the soil, or to improve your drainage condition in that particular soil strata. So what is that you are interested in improving? So according to that, the different types of geofabric materials or geosynthetic materials which are available, which can be made use of in order to improve that particular ground condition. Sometimes what happens is in the low-lying areas, in mostly in the case of cities and urban areas, what we see is in low-lying areas, all the municipal waste deposits are going to be dumped. In the process of dumping that waste deposits in the low-lying areas, you are going to encounter certain situations of contamination happening in the ground there. Water gets polluted, soil gets polluted. So to avoid such kind of pollutants getting penetrated into the deeper layers of the soil strata or getting mixed with your water existing in that particular location, so you can make use of different lining materials, so that the geosynthetics in which you are also going to come across with some of those lining materials which can also be used to improve the condition of the ground there to prevent your contamination. So you have various alternative techniques that are now available to improve the condition of your ground or the soil according to your necessity, in case if the original condition of the soil is not meeting your required criterion. Like reinforced earth wall is one of such structure what we are talking about, where the subsequent the strength characteristics of the existing ground is improved to take care of the loads which are coming from your moving vehicles, or maybe loads which are coming because of any structure what is constructed over that particular surface. And soil nailing is another kind of technique which is giving you a lateral stability to that of the soil mass which is at a higher elevation, from prevention to avoid the slope failure issues, to avoid your land failure issues or the slope failure issues. So in order to overcome the landslide problems, you can try to have such techniques adopted, where this soil nails are driven into the ground there, which acts like your anchors for your walls what you are trying to construct. For your retaining structures, additionally, these nails are going to be acting like anchors, which gives you more lateral stability against the failure of the soil mass which is retained on the other side of your wall. Like sheet piles also can also be used as retaining members for retaining the material at your required elevation. So these are driven to your required depth into the ground. So these retaining these sheet piles are driven into the required depth into your ground, and those sheet piles are connected one to the other along the length to which it is required to be extended, and to the depth to which it is to be driven into the ground. So these sheet piles are going to be providing you the lateral resistance against your earth pressure problems, and these are also used in the excavations, or maybe in the case of your waterfront structures. Let's say, for example, in the case of an open pit excavation, if I need to carry out, okay, so how do we carry out your open pit excavation? We keep on removing the soil out. In the process, when you are trying to continuously removing the soil, there is a problem that the surrounding soil might get collapsed into the open pit what you are excavating. So to prevent that, you try to excavate the soil, and the surrounding soil is going to be laterally restrained by driving some sheet piles into the ground, so that those sheet piles what you are trying to drive into the ground provides the lateral stability for the adjacent soil against the failure what is expected to happen in it. And these sheet piles can also be used as some temporary structures to prevent in the places, let's say, where your water body is there. In that water body, if I am required to take up any construction, so these sheet piles can be temporarily driven into that particular region where I want to take up the construction, and you can prevent the water flow happening through that region. And by diverting the water flow, you can take up the construction in that particular area, and accordingly remove that temporary work what you have created by driving your sheet piles in that location. And it's also very important for us to understand the properties of the soil, to know which are that particular places where you have the possible failures that are expected to happen. It could be your landslide failure, or maybe slope stability failures that you are going to be coming across. So that all we can know only when how the properties of the soil are existing, and what are the various factors or the forces that are getting applied on that particular sloping surfaces, and what are those driving forces which are trying to cause the failure in that sloping surface, and what is the resisting force that the soil can offer against the failure. So all that if we know, then we'll be able to understand whether that particular slope is said to be stable or unstable. If it is unstable, how to make it stable, all that we'll be able to learn. And in the cases where you are required to carry out excavations adjacent to the existing structures, okay, so let's say, for example, there is already an existing structure, but adjacent to that existing structure, if I am required to take up some construction, so in the process of construction of that, nowadays in the urban areas, what we see is that adjacent to the existing structure itself, we go on to construct very high-rise buildings where the foundations are constructed at a deeper depth, with certain basements also into the ground. So in the process of excavating the soil adjacent to the existing structure, there is a possibility that the soil below the existing structure might laterally get displaced relatively causing the failure in that structure. So we don't want such kind of failures to happen in the adjacent structures which are already existing because of the structure what you are trying to construct there, where an open excavation is being carried out. So to prevent such kind of failure, you try to provide some what is called as retaining walls, or maybe your sheet piles are what we are going to be driving into the ground to have that required lateral stability. And in the cases where you are required to be taking up the construction of your tunnels, so even in that particular constructions of tunnels also, we are going to be we will be required to know how the condition of the ground is, because whether that ground through which you are talking about carrying out your excavation for tunneling works and so on, whether it is feasible or not, we will be coming across with it. And it's also very important for us to know what are the effects of blasting which are being carried out, because in the places of your mines where we are required to carry out your blasting, it could be coal mines or iron ore places. So generally people try to carry out blasting. So in the process of carrying out that blasting, what is the effect of blast what you have done on the nearby area or nearby structures what are existing is something what we need to know. How much amount of additional forces or sudden forces are getting generated in the ground is what we need to know. And how does the soil responds to those additional forces what are generated are to be compulsorily known. Without which, if you are trying to say, yes, I am doing blasting here, how does it affect my structures which are very far away? It doesn't make much sense. And sometimes when your properties of the soil, what is available is not meeting the required criterion according to your necessity. So we would be required to improve the condition of the soil there by carrying out a proper compaction of the soil and so on. Let's say, for example, if the soil what is available is expected to undergo more amount of settlement. So to avoid that excess settlements what your soil is expected to undergo, you will be required to compact that soil. So for compacting the soil, you have got different machineries that are available. Like you can make use of different types of rollers which are available for compacting the ground. You can make use of an impact roller or maybe a sheep foot roller, depending on the type of soil and the amount of compaction that you want to achieve. You will be talking about that respective type of compacting machine. Sheep foot roller is typically used in the case of your clay soil deposits, and smooth wheeled roller is typically what is used in the case of your silty soil or maybe in the case of your sandy soil deposits. And in case if the amount of compaction what is desired is very high, or if that particular soil what is available there is a loose soil, but however you want to construct a very high rise structure or whatever in that particular location itself, then in such case you need to carry out a higher amount of compaction in that particular area where you want to take up the construction. So that higher amount of compaction you can achieve by dropping some heavier weights from top, like giving some impact load or giving some impact loading onto that ground, so that you can achieve higher densification in that particular location. So if you look at here, you can see some weights which are being dropped from certain height, and whenever that weights are dropped, you could see some impression getting formed on the ground surface, which is an indication that the soil in that particular region where the load impact load is dropped, the soil is getting more compressed. You can see some large impressions getting formed in the ground, okay, which we call it as craters. So this large impression indicates that the soil in that region got more compressed because of the sudden load what you have dropped. So according to your requirement, you should continuously drop those weights at different places in that complete area to achieve your required density. Strength of the soil is going to be high, and the amount of soil settlements what that soil would have would be relatively low. And as we were talking about, it's always not possible, or sometimes it may not be preferable for us to go to the field and collect the soil samples and go to the lab to perform various tests in the lab to determine the soil properties. So as we have mentioned, we also come across with different types of field tests which we can directly conduct in the field itself to determine the various properties of the soil. So some of those field tests could be your cone penetration test, or it could be your vein shear test, or maybe standard penetration test and plate load test, pressure meter test, okay, various other field tests that we will be coming across according to your necessity of what type of property of that soil is what we are trying to determine there. Like you can conduct SPT test, or maybe you can conduct CPT test, or maybe you can conduct a dilatometer test, or a pressure meter test, or a vein shear test. Depending on the suitability of that test in that particular soil condition, you are going to be talking about that particular test, field test, what you can conduct at that location to understand the condition of the soil there, and accordingly, based on the condition of the soil, you can take a decision on how the design of that structure has to be done in that particular area. For any particular geotechnical structure that we come across with, we try to have certain factor of safety to ensure that structure, whatever we are trying to design, is going to be safe against your failure. So depending on the importance of the structure and depending on the various aspects, that is nothing but the economical aspects and livelihood aspect wise, so we will be certainly taking up a decision on whether to have a higher factor of safety in that design of that structure, geotechnical structure, or whether a lower factor of safety is also sufficient enough. Let's say, for example, if I am trying to talk about a foundation which is designed for a simple residential building, I don't require very higher factor of safety, because abnormal aspects on that foundation is not very much common in the case of a simple residential building foundation. But when it comes to the case of a very high-rise building, if it is a foundation designed for a very high-rise building, economically more of investment is there, and many people will be using that particular structure upon its completion of the construction. That means when more of utility is there by many people and more of money is invested, you would also see to ensure the safety of that structure by having a little higher factor of safety. So likewise, depending on what are the conditions at which the foundation is designed there, okay, whether the foundation is designed only for static loads or whether the foundation is also to be designed for what is called as your earthquake loads. If it is to be designed even for earthquake loads, then higher factor of safety would be required. If it is designed only for your static load, lesser factor of safety is also sufficient enough to calculate how much is the amount of working load at which that foundation has to be designed there for that structure. Now, what are the different problems that we are likely to encounter in this geotechnical engineering? Okay, so you would see like excess settlement happening because of the reduction in the shear strength of that soil there, or the loads getting transferred from the superstructure are even heavier than the strength of that soil on which the structure is resting. So in such particular case also, you would see that your structure is not going to be stable enough. Sometimes what happens is the structure what is constructed on that soil strata might be safe now, but after 5 years or 10 years, you may not see the structure going to be after 5 years, it may not be stable. Okay, because of various changes that are happening in that particular soil. Okay, that particular soil on which the structure is constructed, if it is not properly consolidated, if the complete consolidation process has not happened in that soil, because of which excess settlements continues to happen over a period of time because of that load what is getting transferred through the structure onto the soil, because of that excess settlements due to the consolidation what is taking place in that soil, sometimes you might see the instability in the structure taking place. There could be some possible cases where if the proper compaction is not done in the construction of your pavement, so even in such particular case also, where you would see some excess settlements happening at one place and lesser amount of settlements happening in some other place, so because of which your failure in the pavement surfaces you would encounter. Okay, or though your proper compaction is done and after which you have taken up the construction also, what would happen is the type of soil what you are dealing there, whether it is a problematic soil, if it is a problematic soil, what type of problematic soil, whether it is an expansive soil or whether it is a collapsible soil. Say if it is an expansive soil. Okay, so if it is an expansive soil, the behavior of that soil is, let's say when water is added to that soil, whenever additional water gets added to that particular soil due to rainfall or whatever reason, volume of the soil increases because of the montmorillonite mineral which is present in that soil. Okay, so when the volume of the soil increases, then you would see a lifting happening, you would see an uplift happening in that surface of the ground. And when there is a reduction in moisture content in the soil, then the volume of the soil decreases. And when the volume of the soil decreases, you might see shrinkage happening in the soil, resulting in what is called as crack formation, which is an indication of the failure in that particular pavement surface. So you would come across with various problems, okay, in terms of the excess settlements happening, or in terms of your cracks that are getting developed, okay. Sometimes you might even come across with the failures because of land what is getting slided away because of heavier rains along your hilly areas or ghat roads. You would come across with this particular problem more commonly because along that weakest plane, the shear strength of the soil gets reduced, and the load what it is subjected to is more when compared to that of the strength of the soil what is available, and because of which you are going to see some portion of the land which is getting slided away from its original position. And this is one of the classical example of a problem with regard to a structure what is called as Leaning Tower of Pisa, where the original structure was designed vertical and it was vertical, but with the time what happened is at some particular location of the foundation of that structure, excess settlements were taking place, whereas at the other locations of the foundation, those excess settlements were not happening, because of which towards that side where excess settlements were happening in the foundation, we started having a tilt in the structure. And if we continue to allow that tilt in the structure, we are going to see the failure happening in that particular structure after some point of time. You don't want that further tilting to happen in that structure, that further distortion happening in the structure. So to avoid that, we have to take certain measures as a geotechnical engineer to prevent that failure. But however, the importance of that structure, importance of that particular structure still has to be maintained. What is the importance of this structure? It's a leaning structure. Though it has to be in inclined position, but however, it has to be stable. So these are some of those problems a geotechnical engineer would come across, and some of the various challenges what he will encounter in the field. When the structure was constructed, everything was planned perfectly, but over time, because of various changes happening in the ground, the condition of the soil got changed, because of which somewhere you had more settlement, at some other places you had lesser settlement, because of which you started seeing a tilted position in your structure. And you would come across with your seepage problems in the case of your earthen embankments, where flow would happen through that particular through the cross section of the earthen embankment. So how a proper filters are to be designed to avoid the failure of that earthen embankment because of the continuous water which is trying to flow from upstream to that of your downstream. And this is one of that classical example where we have a dam failure, because once the dam gets failed because of your seepage what is happening continuously through the interconnected void paths, at some or the other point of time, because of the pressure what is exerted by the adjacent water which has been stored on the upstream, your cross section of the embankment gets failed, and you see the water continuously flowing from upstream to downstream, and your dam do not act like a barrier for storing the water there. So you have to be very careful in designing your structures. And even when you are trying to talk about any structures which are designed in taking in consideration of the dynamic loads what your soil has been subjected to, because sometimes what happens is some of the places within our India, you don't generally come across with your earthquakes happening. But however, sometimes if there is an earthquake and if the structure existing there, if it is not designed in taking criterion of that earthquake loading, then what would happen is the foundation is not capable of taking that sudden earthquake loads what it has been subjected to, resulting in the failure of the structure. So we have to be carefully understanding what different types of loads that particular soil material is expected to undergo, okay, whether it is only static loads which are getting transferred, or you come across with any dynamic loading in the form of earthquake forces, okay, or do you have some cyclic or repeated type of loads what that particular soil mass or that particular subgrade soil is expected to be subjected to. So depending on all that, whether that particular existing soil is suitable in taking up your construction or not is what we have to understand there. Okay, so with this, we'll stop our discussion for today, and we'll be continuing our discussion in our next class. In today's class, we have in detail talked about what is meant by geotechnical engineering, or rather the soil mechanics. So in detail, we have understood what are the different areas this application of geotechnical engineering that we are going to be coming across with. And we have also seen what the outline of the syllabus, what we are going to be covering in this particular course, and the references what we are going to be following for this particular course. Thank you.